Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Tally. This is episode 40, and I'm your host, Brian Tally. The mission and the goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and on Spotify. The online information and handles are all located on the scrolling ticker at the bottom portion of your screen. Be sure to like and share the program as well. You can also support the program by going to Anchor FM or Spotify and clicking the support button. Folks, let me tell you about Patriot Home Services, a reliable company who stands by their work and comes in on time and on budget. Patriot Home Services is located in the Woodlands, Texas, and offers a wide array of services. Cody Dawson, the owner, is a hands-on contractor who will follow through on your project and will leave you having perhaps the best contracting experience you've ever had. Whether you need home additions, remodels, outdoor patios and kitchens, flooring, painting, and much more, one call does it all. Patriot Home Services, 720-745-2568, or visit them online at patriothomeservicesllc.com. That's patriothomeservicesllc.com. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. It's not every day that you get to sit down and speak with one of our nation's finest. I invite you to pull up a chair and sit down alongside us on this one-on-one engaging conversation that is sure to leave you feeling inspired. Here is the brief version of this warfighter's resume. Darrin Isham is a native of San Diego, California. He graduated from Santana High School in June of 1989, and 5 days later enlisted in the United States Navy to become a United States Navy SEAL. After completing an exhausting 6-month training program, arguably one of the toughest in the world, Darrin graduated with Bud's Class 169, graduating only 25 after starting with over 120 classmates. During Isham's 25-year tenure in Naval Special Warfare, Darrin was assigned to numerous commands to include SEAL Team 1, SEAL Team 3, SEAL Team 7, Naval Special Warfare Development Group, and many more. Darrin had 10 overseas deployments, 5 of which were combat deployments in support of Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom, completing 3 tours to Afghanistan and 2 to Iraq. He received many awards and commendations to include 3 Bronze Stars, 2 Joint Service Commendation Medals, 4 Navy Commendation Medals, the Joint Service Achievement Medal, 4 Navy Achievement Medals, and 2 Combat Action Ribbons. And that's just to name a few, folks. Darrin currently is the president and CEO of his own consulting company, Trident Steadfast Solutions Incorporated, where he supports several training and security contracts with the federal government. Darrin is also the president and founder of American Patriot Music Project, a 501c3 nonprofit organization which serves the veteran and first responder communities by facilitating music projects in support of music therapy programs to help the nation's heroes in need. And with that, folks, we are honored to be joined by Darrin Isham himself. How are you, sir?
Good. Thanks for having me. It's quite the honor.
The honor is all mine. I was looking through your resume, and I'm like, man, this guy right here, man, he's like Rambo. He's done it all. I love it. How you doing today out there in South Carolina?
Good. Trying to stay cool. It's a little warm day here on the lake, but we're making it happen. So trying to enjoy some retired life in between other things. So doing well, my friend.
Man, I see the pictures out there on that lake and that dock you got and that beautiful home you've worked so hard for over your career. Man, what's it like out there living on the lake?
It's nice. If you love to fish, it's nice to be on a lake. So it's nice to go in your backyard and throw a line in or hop in your boat, get on a paddle board, or just remain on the dock with a cold, few beverages and just soak it all in. So it's real nice. Feel blessed.
Attaboy. Attaboy. Well, listen, you have got a storied career here, a decorated Navy SEAL. And the mission and the goal of this program is to add some real life value to the folks that may need it the most out there. And I know that you can do just that. So I'd like to begin just telling us what it was like growing up as a kid in Southern California.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in San Diego, pretty much an East County kid. My mom and dad kept moving east, where we eventually culminated in Santee. So I spent a lot of times hiking around the hills as well as going to the beach. So I had plenty of water time, plenty of hill time, going to the snow in the mountains, a lot of time in the Queen Mountains. And then got pretty involved in ROTC and JROTC in high school. That's what kind of instigated my interest with the military. But I do come from a military family. So my brother and I actually were both time in the SEAL teams.
We share a lot of commonalities, Darrin. I too grew up in San Diego and Claremont. Grew up playing in the canyons in San Diego and running the train tracks and taking my beach cruiser down to PB and hopping off the pier and surfing. And we also shared Temecula, and we also shared military service. I think San Diego is one of those fine places, America's finest city, if you will, very patriotic in a big, big naval town. Did you, at a young age, get inspired by perhaps the U.S. Navy being close to 32nd Naval and Coronado? Was there something you saw as a kid that said, I want to do that when I grow up?
Yeah, so I come from a Navy background. My dad was a Vietnam veteran, served in the Navy. And I remember actually going to Coronado Beach in front of the Hotel Del as a young kid, watching all the students and the team guys running up and down the beach. And so kind of got exposed to that early. Definitely don't have any frogman background in my family. So I was the first one, then followed by my brother. But I do remember at a very young age being somewhat indoctrinated to their presence and then learning more about them later in high school.
Obviously, growing up and going through high school and having, this passion and having, your own goals and admirations of the military, you had to have been some sort of a competitive kid. You don't join the U.S. Navy and plan on being a Navy SEAL if you don't have that competitive drive behind you to be the best. Were you an athlete in high school?
Yeah, so I actually grew up playing competitive soccer, club soccer, all throughout my young childhood. And then I lettered, played 4 years of varsity soccer at Santana High School there in Santee.
So where did swimming come into this? Because I know, just being a Navy SEAL, it's a lot of, it's the most difficult training, perhaps in the world. A lot of running, a lot of swimming, a lot of waterboarding, if you will, laying down on the beach and getting all that water coming over you. Did you grow up surfing, scuba diving?
Yeah, so actually I spent a lot of time on the beach growing up. So I never did any competitive swimming, but certainly spent enough time in the ocean, swimming pools. Again, I think most guys tend to be somewhat of a natural athlete that can kind of, run the edges around in a lot of different sports and just being athletic in general. But I know guys that were competitive swimmers that did not make the program, and then guys that were not, that really didn't know how to swim that well, become great swimmers in the program.
I'm going to use a baseball term here because I'm a big ball player. My kids all played 5-tool athlete. You can't just be really good at running and shooting and be a horrible swimmer or vice versa. So you got to be a very well-rounded individual that is an expert in all three, if you will: shooting, swimming, running, and all that too. When you join the Navy, I'm sure they didn't say, we're going to make you a Navy SEAL and that's your MOS. Was there a job that you did for a while that led you to an opportunity of trying out for the SEAL teams? Or is this something that you sign up to do and you go through boot camp and then SEAL training?
I did sign up for the program, actually. So back when I joined in June '89, at the time, Naval Special Warfare did not have its own rating. So we had source ratings within the Navy. So I was a radio man, but I did join for the dive fair program, which at the time was Navy, EOD, and diver. So from the get-go, my contract was to try to try for the SEAL program. So I did it as quick as you could. I was probably one of the younger SEALs at the young age of 18. I just turned 18 to actually get my trident. So pretty much on the fast track, first time, every time as far as buds went. So I was lucky enough to stay healthy. That's the big thing. So I know a lot of great guys that got injured and couldn't recover from the injuries, but probably would have been great team guys.
You say 18 years old, you earned your trident, became a Navy SEAL. I mean, this is a small community. A small community, and you guys all know each other. You guys have some camaraderie. You guys share a lot of memories, whether they're good or bad. Or can you describe to our listeners out there that what it's like to be a U.S. Navy SEAL?
Yeah, I get asked that question quite a bit, just in passing and all the other elements and circles that I'm involved in my life. I think the big thing is you're part of the special operations community, which is a subculture in itself within the military. And you're right, it's a very small group. I think on average 3,000 active duty SEALs at any given time. Yeah, it's you live in an environment, obviously, where you're not really able to disclose a lot of what you do. If you have a family, you're dealing with that as well. And frankly, you're involved in some pretty classified work and a lot of dangerous work, a lot of dangerous training. Then I was fortunate enough to actually be involved in 5 combat deployments as well. I remember a time when a lot of us had no combat experience. The 9/11 happened and changed that for everyone. But yeah, it's fast and furious. It can be somewhat of a selfish career, getting all the calls and being gone all the time. But it's one of those things where I didn't even plan on making it a career, to be honest with you. So I had a 6-year enlistment when I first came in, and then they kept giving me money to stay on re-enlistment bonuses. So I kept taking that, and to be honest with you, didn't really know if I was going to do anything on the outside. So I kept doing what I loved doing, and it turned out, 25-year career. So lucky to be here still. I had some friends not make it, friends who got injured. So I'm always thinking of them and the brotherhood. But it's essentially that. It's a brotherhood, and it's a frogman culture. It's hard to describe if you're not immersed in it. But there is a camaraderie that you miss when you're not with the guys. But one thing I can tell you is there is a brotherhood out there. So a lot of the SEAL veteran community, we're wrapped around each other, supporting each other. If we need to give some hard love to each other, we do that as well, active duty or not. So it's a lifelong pursuit being in the brotherhood, which I find very appealing.
I mean, you're some of the most finest leaders in the world. And so, definitely when you guys get out, you guys do play a major role and a major presence, not only in the active duty community, but also in the veteran community as well, for people to look to for inspiration, for encouragement, and just to look up to somebody that perhaps to these young lance corporals or whatever it may be, men that are larger than life. Now, I know you guys probably go through your own experiences with, say, mental health or, being away from family, and really try to live this life perhaps of being prideful and not really showing that type of emotion. When you go through this as a Navy SEAL, do you guys lean on each other and kind of help each other out? Or do you guys just stay to yourself when it comes to that emotional side of being a human being and also serving in the U.S. military?
Yeah, I think it's a natural tendency when you're part of an alpha warrior-centric group to want to not show weakness. And you see that, again, it's naturally inherent. However, I think from my experiences, especially once we started in combat operations and losing guys, there was an acceptance to let each other know how you're really doing. And you always have some, 2 or 3 really close swim buddies in the teams that you're able to lean on. And I still talk to them, and I have mentors in the teams that I talk to. And unfortunately, I lost one of my big mentors to suicide not too long ago. He was larger than life, and then just a renowned frogman, very well respected. That was a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. And we look back on, man, wish we would have been there for that person later in life. So yeah, you never know, but I think it's generally accepted these days, especially with 20 plus years of combat operations, to lean on each other now and get through it. At the end of the day, the battle space, battlefield's only getting more complicated, more complexities associated with that. I spent some time developing technology when I got out for DoD, so I was a little privy to some of the near peer and peer threats out there and what we're trying to develop. So the warrior these days compared to the warrior like myself 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, it's more of a demand on today's warrior by far. And when you kind of incorporate the political and social environments and challenges that we're all having in today's society, internationally as well, it's even harder on these guys.
I agree. And the reason why I ask that is because you come from a community that takes care of their own, and when folks may not be feeling well, I think it would be kind of hard for them to sit down and talk with somebody that hasn't been in their shoes, that has not seen what they have seen. And that's why I think a lot of folks in that Naval Special Operations community, are there for each other, or perhaps they may have even gotten involved in some careers where they could help their fellow man, help their fellow brother, sister, whatever it may be, in arms through some of the life processes and challenges that they're currently going through. And, that really brings me to the next segment of this: traumatic events. You have served our country honorably for 25 years. You have given your life to service. You get out and you continue to serve, but in a different way. You're giving back to a veteran community, an at-risk and vulnerable population. Tell us about American Patriot Music Project and what inspired you to begin this 501c3.
Yeah, so my entry into the nonprofit world really started after our last deployment. 2009, Afghanistan, one of our officers lost both legs in IED, and it was one of our first ops. And through that experience, seeing what he went through, one of my other officers that filled in for him afterwards started a Phoenix Patriot Foundation, which is a great nonprofit. And so I immediately signed on board, just having been there, witnessing the event of Dan losing both legs, and seeing what these guys are going through. Once they're pushed out of active duty service, what help is there for them? The VA at the time was suffering, very challenged, still has some challenges, I think. So the nonprofit sector, I think, is answering the mail in a lot of ways. So I hopped on board, and then I grew up in a household of music. So my mom and dad are very accomplished musicians. I've always been interested in music, played the piano off and on throughout the years. And then I met Gary Sinise at my last command, and actually developed a pretty good friendship with him. So with his foundation and what he's doing with the Lieutenant Dan Band, I merely kind of did a consensus of my own interest and wanted to do the same thing at a smaller scale. So we started a music program for the Phoenix Patriot Foundation at the time, back in 2014. And we created a band, Phoenix Patriot Band, as a marketing and fundraising platform. And we did good work for about 4 years there. And then it was time to actually branch off and just make a music-centric nonprofit where that's all we specialized in. So we could really just dive deep into the mission. So kind of that mantra where, jack of all trades, masters of none. We wanted to be the master of integrating music into our heroes' lives, so both veteran and first responder. So 2018, I formed the American Patriot Music Project. I took all the band members. We created the American Patriot Band. Again, it's a marketing and fundraising platform, similar to what Gary Sinise is doing with his band. And it basically facilitates a volunteer base, and then we have a variety of programs where we actually are able to help veterans and first responders on the ground. So we just basically whatever we can do to integrate music into the lives, because I think we all agree that music is the one universal aspect that touches everyone in some form or fashion. We all relate to it. Definitely has, I think, a healing capability about itself, and it brings people together. So we have a variety of programs that we've been able to accumulate and execute. So we do music education, where we provide music lessons for any hero interested. We also do custom guitar building workshops. If you see the guitar by me, that's one of the custom guitars that I built alongside a group of veterans on our second guitar build. And then we also do industry support. So say there's a hero that's interested in working in the music industry, we'll do what we can to reach out to our network to try to place them in some capacity. And we've also supported recording album projects where we've had veterans interested in writing their own music, and basically based out of their experience in the military and the kind of the traumatic events that they went through. So we want to support that. So we give them financial resources and logistic support to go in studios and write their own songs. And as a matter of fact, we took one young Marine all the way from Temecula to Miami and back, and we played across the nation, supporting his efforts to get on stage and really tell his story through music. And then we had our band, supporting performances along with that. So it's been a good ride so far. So it's an 8-year in the running initiative, but 4 years with American Patriot Project.
So I've got a question for you. Veteran wants to take part in your program. What's the guitar build like, and where does this happen?
Yeah, so the genesis of that is we partnered with the STEM Guitar Building Institute, which is funded by the National Science Foundation, NSF. And they have the collegiate circuit on building guitars, and they have a college program basically to teach woodworking skills, electronics, integrate math into that. But they use the mechanism building the guitar. So by us partnering with them, we told them we wanted to extend that over to the veteran community at the time, and then we integrate first responders right after that. But essentially, it's a 3 to 5 day workshop. So we get a group of heroes together, and we spend a week together building a guitar completely from scratch. We find different hosts each year. Recently, we've had the city of Temecula, I believe the last 4 years, give us an actual city grant to run a local workshop. So we've had a couple wineries host us. We've done it at an air museum, community centers. So wherever we can find someone to host. We had another nonprofit in Elsinore called Warrior Built host us 1 year, which is where I built this guitar with a group of veterans. So again, the program is centered around, hey, let's bring a group of veterans together, a group of heroes. Let's go ahead and have them spend a week together, swap stories, share stories, what's on their mind, where they're headed, where they've been, what's going on with them. So as you walk around and as they're learning to build this guitar, and a lot of them don't know how to play. So it's interesting, but we give them lessons for those that are interested in play afterwards. From day one to the last day, it's really interesting. There's a new bond and a new network and a new family that got created that week. And we've been doing this for almost 8 years now. And the amount of family that's grown surrounding this nonprofit, both veteran, hero, first responder, and patriot alike. So we have a lot of civilians that are supporting the band and on the ground, raising money, spending time with these heroes on and off stage, which is really great to see. So couldn't be more proud on the lives that we've been able to impact to date. And again, are we solving all the problems? No, but we are engaging with them, and we'll stay engaged with them for years. Even if we don't talk for a couple of years, they come back, they need something, or we have something we think would benefit them. We reach out to them, vice versa, and we try to make it happen. If it's music related, we try to make it happen.
Yeah, and if I must say, that is a beautiful guitar behind you there that you built customly. How does one build a guitar? Does it come already kind of somewhat molded? How does this even happen?
Yeah, so our 5-day workshops are completely from scratch. So you get a block of wood, you're making the whole fretboard, you're making the frets, you're shaping everything, drilling the holes. So the 3-day workshop, it's almost the same thing, except the neck is somewhat done just because of the time constraints. But essentially, they get this kit. They have to shape the body, the headstock. There's a lot of drilling. And again, there's a lot of math and soldering, electronics involved. So they practice on certain things before they do the guitar. And it's really interesting to have someone that knows nothing about building a guitar and finishing with something like that. Even for a guy like myself, it was challenging. But I play this as my primary bass guitar. I play on stage. I've been doing it for the last 4 years with it. And it sounds pretty good, I think. So yeah, it's a good week, and it's a high learning curve. So, but we make it happen. And what's nice about these guitars is we bring an engraver in. So we always, we'll preface with the heroes. Hey, if you have any military logos, pictures of family, whatever you want to laser etch or engrave on that guitar, give us the graphics, and we're going to do that for you. And we do it on site. So like I have all my main military logo units I served at on the guitar, and we've seen pictures of families. So when these heroes walk away with that guitar that they built with their own hands, one of a kind, they're able to actually put a lot of extra love into it, things that mean something to them, like past military units they served with.
What a warrior. What an absolute warrior, man. You motivate me. It's
likewise, brother.
Something I kind of just came to mind as you're explaining this process. The 5-day build, a block of wood. And I almost envisioned this veteran coming in as this block. It's just block. His life is a block. And as they spend that 5-day period, not only are they shaping a guitar, but they're kind of reshaping their life. The camaraderie, the stories, the therapy. Can you explain the therapy that you have received from doing something like this, and perhaps the feedback that you have gotten from other veterans, from the therapeutic ways that they have shared and put on display through their art of creating and forging a guitar?
Yeah, so first off, I get just as much out of it as everyone, all the recipients and participants that go through our program. Every time we meet a new group of veterans, first responders, it's just something that's a big positive aspect of my life. And we had them as extended family, increasing our network of support with each other. Yeah, one big feedback we get is they're like, a lot of people, I think, take for granted that, if you're a veteran, not every veteran is immersed in the veteran community. And I would offer that most probably are not, meaning, I'm lucky to be surrounded by veterans. So I get my daily fix of jargon and interacting with them and what I need to do to keep surviving on a daily basis. A lot of these veterans don't get that. So when we bring them in, we fly them in, or if they're local, they spend a week with other veterans and they're able to interact with them like they were back in the military, like you said, they've walked in similar or the same shoes. So they're able to open up to someone that has a level of understanding and connection that other people won't. And even when our patriots are on site, our civilians that are supporting, they just listen. Sometimes it's easier for a warrior to talk to a non-warrior because they won't feel judged, because again, it's very alpha-centric, especially in special operations community. So to have that time with each other, that's where the magic happens. I call it the magic sauce. That's where the healing, the therapeutic kind of elements that we try to bring through music. And again, like you're saying, it's kind of reshaping focus with their lives. Again, may not be solving all the problems, but we're trying to keep them on a good positive path. We've partnered with another nonprofit called the Alaska Adventure Project, where we go to Alaska every year. So a good friend of mine, Billy Bolton, which love to have him on your show, created this, former Marine. He spends a week doing the same thing, except building a guitar. They go to Alaska and they get a similar experience, out in that environment. So we've actually been able to partner and bring the band up twice already to perform city concerts in support of his foundation. So we would have a supporting role with ours. And by doing that, we've really extended and probably impacted close to 30 veterans over the years already, I think, with it. It's just a phenomenal relationship we have. And we're hoping to get back up there next year or two to basically help promote what he's got going on and throw more at his program. So again, at the end of the day, it's just a good mechanism that right now we think we're having some impacts with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen a lot of the pictures. We have some mutual friends that are from Temecula that go up to that Alaskan fishing project, and that looks absolutely amazing. And it's neat that you can kind of be involved and kind of help each other out. And I mean, because look, there's 20.2 million American veterans out there, and this is what I try to tell everybody. There's so many people and so many nonprofits that are there to help, the veteran community. And there's enough for everybody to go around. Everybody wants to help. And there's so much out there. What I have found is it does put some anxiety on the veterans sometimes to figure out where I'm going to go. Where's the directory? Is there a directory for this? There's literally so many. It's like, where do you begin? Where do you start? What program is going to be best for you? What's going to best suit your needs? How are you going to connect with the therapy that they are providing, whether it's fishing or playing a guitar, or if it's faith-based, if it's, drug and alcohol? Really, there's so much out there. And I haven't seen something as unique as what you're doing for the veteran and first responder community, and it's honorable. Can you tell me, when you got out of the Navy, you spent some time, in the civilian world. How was that transition like, coming out of the special operations community and going into the civilian world, and then transitioning back into serving again, but in a different role of being in a band and having these guitars? Was there some therapeutic needs that you may have needed yourself, and you kind of found yourself that I'm going to heal myself by healing others?
Yeah. So for me, when I decided to retire, it was time for the family. Certainly, otherwise I probably would stay in for 30 years. I love what I did. It's a hard transition for guys. Some guys or members are fortunate to be able to grab government service positions where they stay in the community as a civilian and they're still immersed in that environment. I have several friends that do that. For the rest of us who choose not to do that, or don't have the opportunity, yeah, I have a lot of friends that just went a lot of different sectors. And it is surprising the different chapters in people's lives and what they are and the route that they take. For me, though, being involved in the nonprofit sector is something I wanted to do. I did it while I was on my last 4 years of active duty, based off that one deployment. So I wanted that to be part of my life. I was able to get a technology development job with the military. So I did that for 5 years. That kept me immersed with the veteran community as well as the active duty component, working with all branches of service with new emerging technology. I actually did several projects with SOCOM. So I got my fix in both those kind of capacities of post-service. But for those that don't have it, yeah, there's a lot of anxiety. Like, what do they do with their lives? Where do they go from now? What you don't think of is, even if you make a career in the military, and hopefully you have a long spanning life, you spend more time as an adult outside of the military, but that was the biggest kind of component of your life for a while. So what do you do the majority of the time, the rest of the life that you have? People start getting a sense of that. I'm like, yeah, what do I do? I think the career guys, there's a lot of management, leadership roles that can fill in a lot of different sectors and industries, and I do see that as well, which I think is good for guys. But yeah, it's a hard path traveled, and I think getting back to your point about veterans, like knowing what nonprofits are out there and really what's the best one. Right now, for the most part, it's word of mouth, it's networks, trying to Google it online, if you will. But I think the most successful that I've seen with veterans is really just word of mouth, putting themselves out there. We've met veterans on stage performing. We've had people come up, a wife going, I want you to meet my husband. He needs to talk to you. We've met people like that. We've had people reach out to us. Yeah, some friends saw you guys perform. We think, there's a friend that would be great. They reach out to us. It's a veteran, and they go through one of our programs. So I think essentially it's word of mouth. I'd like to see that get better for the nation, though. And I know there are some directories, but I don't think there's anything all inclusive that really kind of spells out what each nonprofit truly can do for someone. It's just trying to get people involved in the veteran community,
Yeah, just get back to that, growing and evolving. A lot of veterans find themselves self-isolating. Unfortunately, the VA, is not all bad, but a lot of the times they focus on perhaps covering up a lot of the wounds that they actually have with medications, and that turns to alcohol and drug abuse, and then they find themselves in a whirlwind of nightmares. At times, trying to figure out how they're going to dig their self out of the trenches that they have found themselves through these life challenges. And to have a program such as yours to help pull these veterans and first responders out of that dark place they are in, again, is truly honorable. And it does take an effort such as yourself and folks like Jason Johnson, who was on your board, who was another warrior, Purple Heart recipient, former Staff Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. You have these leaders that are part of your team that are there to share stories and to have the fellow veteran lean on them and lean on you and say, I know how you feel. I've been there. I've been in your shoes. I've been in your boots. And to have that is what a lot of folks are looking for. How can our listeners connect with you if they want to do a guitar build, if they want to come out and support one of your concerts? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so we recommend just researching and Googling American Patriot Music Project online. We have a website, AmericanPatriotMusic.org, which is all the information about the foundation. It has all the band info, their performances, events that we're doing, both band and program related. We also have a big social media presence on Facebook. So we have some other social media sites like Instagram and Twitter that are linked into that. So you can kind of get a quick synopsis. That's actually active on our website as well. There's a social media feed section. And then certainly we have a contact a section on our website, and you can message us on our Facebook page as well. Reach out to us. We'd love to give you more info, let you know what we have going on. And we are a grassroots effort-based nonprofit, so we're always trying to grow. So the resources that we do have, we try to put those to good use and really impact a hero's life. For us, it's not quantity, it's quality. It's kind of like the SOCOM mantra. But for us, that's something that we really try to adhere to. And again, we meet people, they go through our programs, and they become family, and we help each other years afterwards. And we're starting to see that already. So I think what people need to understand is while the wars have withdrawn, again, you hear that term, the invisible wounds. A lot of those are festering now. Especially as guys leave active duty service because they didn't disclose anything because they want to finish their career, their term of service. So now it's really affecting them, and they don't really have the resources other than the nonprofit sector and potentially VA, which I do think is doing some good things, to try to get the help. That camaraderie, spending time with other veterans and first responders. So look us up. Again, we're always willing, open book to provide transparency and try to help those that we can. And if we can't help you, we'll let you know. We've pushed a lot of people to some other nonprofits that we thought would be better suited for them. There are some other music related nonprofits that are doing some good things. So we've partnered with a majority of them. And, for us, it's all about the veteran and responder communities helping each other. So we'll do projects where we partner with potentially 3 to 5 other nonprofits just to focus on one member, trying to help them.
You mentioned something that has completely stuck in my head, and I think it's important that we discuss it here for a few minutes. You stated that, there's so many folks that from the active duty military community that have maybe gone through a lot of traumatic events. They've got that alpha-centric type personality, and they aren't going to go to sick call to say, hey, look, I'm suffering from anxiety, from some depression, some post-traumatic stress, because they may be afraid that they'll get medically retired out of the military. And further, all I hear about anymore is it's okay to not be okay. But is it really okay to not be okay? Because case in point, I got a great friend of mine, former Marine. He was a infantry officer, and he's got some post-traumatic stress, but he's also an airline pilot. And the problem is he just lost his job after, I don't know how many, 10 years of flying an airplane. They went through and they audited his medical record and found, oh man, this guy's actually got a little bit of post-traumatic stress, and they forced him out of flying. That's what he does now. That's how he makes a living. But he's fine. He can fly, and he's good to go. It's like, where are we now as a country? We have all these veterans that have given everything to serve this country, and then they find themselves getting their livelihoods stripped away from them due to no fault of their own. I'm just having a hard time understanding this. It's okay to not be okay, but is it really not okay to be okay? What do you think about that?
Yeah, you bring up a great point, actually, and it's unfortunate. I'm sorry to hear about that incident. One of many, I'm sure. Yeah, people need to realize that just because you're suffering from a PTS syndrome, you're still productive. It doesn't mean that you're just combat ineffective, you're shut down, you're a detriment to society. I know a lot of people at different levels of it, and there's a lot of civilians that have post-traumatic stress from a lot of different non-combat related incidents in their lives. The people are still functioning members that have post-traumatic stress, but there's elements and aspects or components in their life that are not good. So that we all have challenges and issues in our lives, and we all need that one spark to help us in that area. And that's how I equate to what veterans and first responders are going through. I know there's been a few cases where guys were completely shut down. At that point, we had to, highly recommend them for clinical help. But I think majority of people, they need a positive aspect to kind of just culminate their whole life. Doesn't mean that they're non-functional. I know some great professionals that are crushing it in their industries that, when they see certain scenes or they hear the national anthem, it brings back some moments that aren't so good for them. And they just need to talk to some brothers, some sisters, that they all served with, just to get that spark back up and keep them more well-rounded in their lives. So I hate that stigma that's attached to post-traumatic stress for the veteran and first responder community. So.
Hey, listen, I suffer heavily from anxiety as well. Bouts of depression. I've been through my own traumatic events in my life, and my own life challenges. And, I'm still a contributor to society. I serve still the community with honor, and as well as everybody else does that has served their country that may be going through some moments in their life. But for it to affect your job, it's as if they're being punished for doing everything right. And again, you had mentioned a hard pill to swallow earlier, and that is definitely a hard pill to swallow. And me, I don't fly, I don't do that. This is what I do, and this is what God has put on my heart now. After my injury in 2016, I kind of have recreated myself and reinvented myself in ways that will add value to folks, in the veteran community and really anybody for that. This has been a great interview, but I got another question for you, because like I said, it's not every day that folks get to sit down and listen to a man such as yourself and the selfless service that you have given to our country. To keep us free and to have that liberty bell ringing. Because without a military, we will not be a country. And when we're not a country, we we will be somebody else's country. And we don't want that. We want to keep the United States of America as free and prosperous for everybody, for generations to come. And I'd just like to know, and I'm sure our listeners out there would like to know too, what was your proudest moment in your 25-year career as a Navy SEAL?
Yes. So I have two moments that really identify with me. Administratively, putting the Trident pin on was the proudest moment in my life. It is a big accomplishment, and it doesn't matter how long of a team guy you were or not, whether you made a career or not. That's probably the proudest moment of it for any frogman. Operationally, because I like to have two categories associated with that. But operationally, was part of the Jessica Lynch rescue operation on our first pump to Iraq, which when that was all said and done, at the time, it was the first technical POW rescue behind enemy lines since World War II. So we all had a real big high after that, and then the successful mission getting her out. And we repatriated quite a few remains from her unit that were buried there. So we brought those bodies back and provided a lot of closure for the rest of the families that lost loved ones during that ambush. So those are two moments in my military career that I definitely I always highlighted within myself. So
incredible things that I never knew about you, and thank you for sharing that. I know Jessica Lynch is probably very, very, very happy to have seen some Navy SEALs come in there and rescue her, behind enemy lines. Do you still have a relationship to this day?
So I've never met her. She came right by me on the stretcher. So I've never spoken to her. I know some teammates that have. And I think there's probably a couple that still have somewhat of a relationship. But I know she's doing well. There was a recent story about her, how she's doing all these years. But what was great about that op is, it just wasn't SEALs. We had Army Rangers. We had the Marine Corps. We actually had two M1 tanks on the ground force, which I was part of, and they led the ground assault force. So it's not every day you're hiding your Humvee behind a tank going in, at least for SEALs. So that joint operation, which was National Command directed, was pretty significant for us. And obviously we were able to bring people back home. So a lot of goodness happened that night.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that. That's, it's always great to hear, these stories of success and, a team coming together to fight for the greater good and to save people and to save our own. What advice? This is the final question here. This is, like I said, it's been a great interview, and I appreciate your time and your efforts on this. But I'm sure there's somebody out there listening right now that says, man, I really would like to know what sort of real life value could this Navy SEAL offer to me right now? What kind of wisdom would he perhaps recommend to me right now as I'm driving down the road listening to this podcast? You got anything out there?
Yeah, a couple of things come to mind. At the end of the day, crush life. You only got one life as we know it. Crush it. Work hard, play hard, get the most out of it. Carpe diem, seize the day. Own it. Don't let life own you, because it will. There's plenty of challenges that I always present in each person's life. So do what you can to get the most out of life. And if you need help to achieve your goals, then you do it. I recently got my college degree at the age of 50, and I leaned on a lot of people to make that happen, especially my wife, Christy, countless hours doing homework, school projects, whatnot. And she was there to support me all the way through. So, and that's the other thing I think is the family unit is something that we really try to incorporate with our nonprofit work. So for everyone out there, if you don't have a strong family unit by blood, well, there's a veteran community out there, a hero community, first responder. They can be family too. We've proven that. So get involved. There's a lot of places, VFWs, for instance, as a starting point, entry point to really get involved in a healthy, positive circle. Because at the end of the day, we live in the greatest country without a doubt.
Absolutely.
I believe this is the country that has the most opportunity out of any other country on this planet. And there's a reason why we have this influx of, legal and illegal immigration coming in the country. It's because we're a land of opportunity. You know, it's a catchphrase, but it's true. So, you know, if you're not taking advantage of that, you're not taking advantage of it. You're not living, in my opinion. So, you know, we always say, be that American that was worth dying for.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what we say internally with some of our circles, you know. So live your life well. We've all lost brothers and sisters for a lot of us, and you know, we try to live our lives every day. And you know, your adage of 1% better every day really resonates with me, brother. And I think you're right on the mark on that. Just try to get better every day, impact a person's life, impact your life, and live it. You know, do something productive, better mankind, and just get all you can out of it.
Roger that. You know, the whole 1% for me came when I hit my lowest point several years ago, and I was 99% done with life. I had nothing left to give. I had nothing left to offer. So I started to think about that. Man, another year went by, and I said, I know I'm going to get 1% better every single day, and I've shown that through my leadership and through showing people, you know, like you can get better and you can regrow and evolve and reinvent and recreate and get back at the next chapter in life. And, you know, like you said, crush life, never stop growing. Congratulations. You graduated college at 50. You didn't need to do that. You didn't need to do that. You are, you know, you spent 25 years in the Navy. You know, you got this nonprofit. You're a busy guy. You play in a band. You fish. You're on the lake. You travel. You got a family. But no, you say, you know what? No, I'm going to do more. I'm going to do more. I'm going to graduate college. Why? Because it's a goal of mine. And I'm not going to stop learning. And what I have found to be so great in my life is that you can't be afraid to begin. Begin something new. Start something new today. Begin it today. Don't be afraid to begin, whether it's going out and going on a walk, going to the range, going hunting, going to a ball game, playing catch with your son or daughter. Begin. Begin today. Take that first step and just continue to grow and grow within the community. And so I think this has been phenomenal. I think we're going to touch a lot of lives today. We're going to send people to the American Patriot Music Project. Hopefully you'll get some emails and some phone calls and get some veterans and first responders coming in to join your program and really heal from within and heal within the veteran community through the nonprofit that you offer to our nation's heroes. Thank you for joining us today, Darrin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been quite the honor, and really appreciate what you're doing and what you have done on Capitol Hill for the veteran community. It's quite the honor to be in your presence as well, brother.
Hey, man, I'm just doing. I couldn't live with myself knowing that loophole was out there. I had to do something about it, and really, at the end of the day, it's really helped me and become a better, man, father, husband, and a better veteran. To know that we can still serve guys out there. We can still serve, whether it's picking up trash in your neighborhood or going to Capitol Hill and standing up for the good of the country to fight for what's right for your fellow man and woman. So always remember, always start something new and never be afraid to begin. We sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do for our veterans, our country, and the U.S. military. Your service, sacrifice, and dedication to our country is truly honorable.
Thank you, brother.
Until next time, for Tuesdays with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi, and God bless.